As an eternally thrifty person, I am compelled to find an inexpensive way to effectively cool my house in the summertime. Where I live, afternoon temperatures routinely creep up above 100 degrees, and this makes inside temperatures quite uncomfortable without any cooling. I've embarked upon a couple of projects in the past to try to solve this problem. The first thing I tried was a homemade evaporative cooler made out of a box fan and a water mister. You can see that information right here if you're interested. And while this apparatus did effectively cool the air, it didn't cool it enough to make the house comfortable. My second idea was a whole house fan, and while it didn't offer any net cooling, my idea was that I could turn it on in the nighttime when temperatures were low and let it bring all the cool air in from the outside, and by morning time the house would be very cool and it maybe wouldn't get so hot the next day. The theory sounded better than the actual practice because although outside temperatures got down into the 60s and 70s, even if I ran the whole house fan all night, it was still 75 to 78 degrees in the morning, and then by that afternoon we were up to 94 degrees inside. So that really wasn't cutting the mustard either. But the wonderful thing about projects is they evolve and you get new ideas, and you never know where that path to eventual success might lead. And what I want to show you today is what I think is an effective homemade cooler that really cools the whole house without a lot of energy draw or time or money spent on construction. Now this is a homemade evaporative cooler. I'll call it Evaporative Cooler Model 2 Beta because my wife has a beta fish. Okay, so Evaporative Cooler Part 2 Beta, or version 2 Beta. And first I'll show you how effective it is, and then I'll show you how I built it. That way you can decide for yourself if it's worth the trouble. So what this unit consists of is some 1x2 material, wood, that I built into a frame, and then I bought some evaporative cooler pad from the home improvement store and screwed it to my wooden frame. Now this cross member here is just screwed in to this rail right here, and that's what holds this unit to the window. So if I want to remove it, I just need to take this screw out and the whole thing comes off. I'll show you how it looks from the outside as well momentarily. So outside you can see here the frame that I built is right here, and it goes around the whole window, and then I screwed these other pieces of wood to the main frame to hold the cooling pad to the unit. And you'll notice water is running, and the reason for the water is to give some evaporative cooling ability, and the way that works is I have a submersible pump. This is a pond pump. You can buy them at the home improvement store, or you might even be able to use an evaporative cooler pump, and it just pumps water through this hose up to a piece of PVC pipe with holes in it, and the water trickles through, cooling the air that passes by it, and then it runs down back into this tote. I was hoping that I had a tote that was wide enough for the whole window, but because this one is narrower than the window, I had to use this metal flashing that I found to kind of direct the water. And this does use up some water as the day progresses, so you have to fill it a couple times, but it has a pretty good reservoir there, so it's not anything that requires a lot of maintenance. So as far as effectiveness, temperature in the shade right now is right about 90 degrees, and the temperature inside is 69. So it is amazingly effective for the amount of time and money that I put into it, and even if I run it all day, it does not use very much electricity at all. And this is effective enough and efficient enough that even on a really, really hot day, it cools the house. This house is about 1,700 square feet, and to give you an idea, if the temperature here is 69, in the way back other side of the house, the temperature is probably up into the mid-70s. So it does work to keep the house cool, but it's much better than 94 degrees inside. Now you may be wondering, well, how does the air pass through it? I don't see a fan or anything. Well, that's where my previous experience with my whole house fan comes in. You see, if I just put a fan right here in front of this pad and blew it inside, that wouldn't be very effective because I wouldn't be exclusively pulling air from the outside. I would also be recirculating the air that was in the house, which is bad if you have an evaporative cooling system, because you only want to have air come once through the pad into the house, because if you recirculate it once it's already been moistened by this pad, the air just gets muggy and humid, and it's not effective at making the environment more comfortable. So it's important to just pull air in through the pad and not recirculate any air. And that's where the whole house fan comes into play. The way the system works is all of the other windows and doors in the house are shut with the exception of the window which houses the evaporative cooler, and the fan is blowing air up into the attic, which creates a vacuum inside of the house, and it pulls the air in through the evaporative cooler pad without any recirculation. So I'm not overly humidifying the air, I'm just getting a nice cooling effect. So the system is effective and it's inexpensive, doesn't take much time to build. I think it's important though to see how much it costs to run. In order to estimate how much power my cooler is using, I'm going to look at my smart meter here, and with the cooler running 0.228, 0.229 kilowatts. So what I'll do now is unplug the fan and pump and read what it says at that point, do a little simple math, and then I'll know how much power I'm using. So I'll unplug my circulation pump and fan, and we'll see what it says now. Looks like we're running 0.107, 0.109. So say the difference between those is 0.119 kilowatts, which translates at 15 cents a kilowatt hour, which is basically what I'm charged for electricity here. It cost me 1.8 cents per hour to run my cooler. We'll extrapolate that to daily operation, and that's 42 cents per day, which also translates into $12.85 per month. And that's if I run this thing 24 hours a day, which I typically don't. I a lot of times turn it off, sometimes at night, and sometimes when I leave I turn it off. And if it's nice and cool inside, I don't run it either. So at the maximum, it's going to be about $13 a month to run this cooler. And as an added benefit, I get the soothing sound of trickling water. But enough about ambiance. Next, I'm going to take it apart so you can see a little bit more about how it's built, and I'll talk a little bit about the price. I think you can build one of these yourself for, probably $50, because these pads are only about $10 each, and it requires 2 of them for this window. This window is about 5 feet tall, and the boards are only about $10 for the boards, so $10, $20, $30 here. Plus the pump, you could probably get a pump for $20, that's $50. Plus the little pipe, PVC pipe, that's another couple dollars, and the hose, that's a couple dollars, so maybe $60 for the whole ball of wax, but it's a pretty cheap deal at any rate. And then of course you need some drywall screws. You might find though in your own workshop that you have a lot of the materials to build one of these. To remove the unit, I just twist this like this, and hopefully it won't fall out before I get outside. And this just comes right out of the window frame. And here you can see the hose. This is a 1/2 inch vinyl hose going into some 1/2 inch PVC, and I just drilled some holes in it every couple of inches. And you might have to experiment with where you drill the holes, and you'll also notice that this pipe is kind of at an angle. That's so I get even distribution on both sides of the cooler. If I had it just flat, I noticed that more water was coming out of this side than this side. So it might require some experimentation to get it right. And on this side you can see the way the frame works. The first thing I did was I just built this frame to the interior dimensions of the window, and then I just screwed these other boards on to kind of pinch that cooler pad between the two. So if I need to replace the pads, I can just unscrew these front boards and replace the pads. And then my little sheet metal trough is just held on with some trusty wire, tie wire. Tie like tie your shoe, not Thai like spicy Thai food, which I like. I like spicy Thai food. As far as the pumping mechanism goes, I have just a plastic tote that I used to store shoes in. Now the shoes just are strewn about the house, but that's okay. I have a cool house. So I have my tote, and it's full of water, and this is a submersible pond pump. It sucks water in here and then blows it out here through the tube up to the pipe. So pretty simple and effective. I hope this has been informative to you. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of an idea or a little motivation to try something similar on your own and save some money this summer. Thanks for watching.